Hi guys, happy Sunday. We have a lot to cover this morning, so let's do our half minute. Let's close our eyes. Om Gang Ganapati Namaha. Om Gang Ganapati Namaha. Om Gang Ganapati Namaha. Om Sahana Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vitvishavahei. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurupyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. So we were discussing these alignments, and last time we sort of reviewed all of these which had supportive elements, even if the grahas were not friendly. For example, the 7-7 supported elements, grahas could be enemies, right? Or neutral, if you remember that. And then we switched over to this 410, which is the beginning of the three vasanas that are based on non-synergistic elements. And we reviewed what we meant by that. The non-synergistic elements are the fire-earth category, where one is okay, the other's not, water, air. And then earth, air, fire, water are the most intense ones of the grouping. So the 311 we already did. The 410 is what I gave you actually homework on the combination of these two with the two first ladies or former first ladies. So we'll go there first. And I'll be very honest with you. Once upon a time when we were doing digestions very regularly, in fact, they were required, and then people started to rebel about required digestions. We did very deep digestions, and I did one on exactly this, comparing Hillary Clinton and Eleanor Roosevelt in many ways, not just this particular Vasana alignment way. But we can certainly do the Vasana alignment part of it, and it can be very meaningful in understanding how these two first ladies who had a certain amount in common functioned. So we always like to go to utilization first. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Hillary Clinton first. We're going to look at her utilization, and then we're going to discuss this Vasana, which for her turned out to be hugely important. Oh, here's Kumar. It's good. We do have everybody. All right. So on the level of utilization, what do we think about Hillary Clinton? It's an interesting question, by the way. It's not a simple, straightforward one, as you'll see. So volunteer, does she have utilization? So since we have a lot to do, I'm going to probably call on people if you don't raise your hand. So Srujan, so I'm just giving you warning, fair warning. Go ahead, Srujan.
Yeah, it's a typical situation here. Lagna Lord is in the sixth house, but it has got first year strength. So it's a bit of mixed kind of, it's a trick position, but it has first year strength. So I really don't know whether it is utilization or not. But certainly it has some utilization power.
Certainly, as soon as I don't care where the Lugna Lord is, if the Lugna Lord has a first tier strength, there's going to be some utilization for
Yeah.
sure. But there's something also interesting about her chart because along with the utilization, and again, instead of trying to drag this out of you, since we have a lot to do, I'll give you major hints. Check out the Bhava Yoga. So everybody here has done Bhava Yogas now, right? Shatyoti?
She has the Raj Yoga, not in the.
Oh, I saw. I think maybe I wasn't clearly articulating it. What I mean is the group one, group two Bhava Yogas out of Paladipika that we learned at the end
Oh,
of basic seven.
enemy, not the Astra Yoga. No, something. Sorry.
No, no, because I'm looking with utilization, right? So Suhas.
Yeah, the ascendant and the ascendant lord are both afflicted.
So what Bhava Yoga does she have?
There is it not Chamara? Is it for the ascendant, right? The
Yeah. Anyone know the name of the first Bhava group two yoga, Kumar?
Ava Yoga.
Bhava Yoga.
Avayoga, Avayoga,
Yeah,
yes.
Bhava Yoga. So they would be good now at this level of your Jyotish. You remember those names? If you can't, you can't. But maybe we don't use it enough. I don't know. So it's very fascinating to have someone who has utilization through first year strength, Lagnesha, but there's still an Ava yoga or an Ava like yoga, we could say. Because Jupiter, we could say, breaks the Ava yoga in that the ascendant itself does have some stabilization. Yeah. We can't say that Mercury is going to be the stabilizer on that because for Bhava yogas, we use Mercury as a benefic or malefic. Clearly, it's a malefic here because of the drishti from Mars, right? But there's a little something saving grace, but I give her an Avayoga, and actually, in some very distinct ways in her life, she did have Avayoga Pala. We'll talk about that very briefly again because I don't want to. We could talk 2 hours on the comparison of these two charts easily, but we want to move towards the alignment. So but she is still strong. She's also very determined. Anybody that knows anything about nakshatras, in fact, I use her in the nakshatra class, right? Shatyoti. So what nakshatra does she have big predominance of?
Vishaka.
Vishaka, very determined nakshatra. So, I mean, I know there's so much that you're called on to do, but sometimes in a homework chart, if you notice that something there's many stimulations of a particular nakshatra, especially if the Lagna Lord's in it, you could characterize that person that way. So is Hillary Clinton a very determined individual? Last woman standing? Yeah, she is. So it's very interesting. She has this Avayoga, she has determination, and she has utilization. What doesn't she have? Well, let's look at the art of alignment. That'll tell us one of the things she doesn't have, or at least didn't and couldn't have. So what's the alignment for Hillary Clinton? And of course, we're looking at the alignment with the significant other, with the seventh Lord. So what do you guys think? Okay, so calling on time. Kumar, what'd you do with this one?
Yeah, so Venus and Mars, they are 410 away. So,
Yeah.
so
here's the big question, Kumar. Who is 4 and who is 10?
Okay, who is 4? Who is 10? Okay. Mm, Sorry, I won't know the answer to that question.
Okay, so let's talk about how we derive it. So you look from the Lugna Lord and you count to the 7th Lord. So how far away is the 7th Lord from Venus, the Lugna Lord? Kumar?
10.
Yes. So this means that who is the lead in this marriage in terms of the public recognition, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm,
So this is Hillary Clinton. So who's the 7th?
I would say Bill Clinton is the public face.
Pardon me?
Bill Clinton?
Yeah, it's Bill Clinton, right?
Mhm.
So was he out in front of her? Was he ahead of her? Absolutely. So Sunita, in which way?
I think he took the charge for his political career, and he kind of, just spearheaded his own success while she was kind of a bystander or a supportive element that helped him to rise to his fame.
Yeah. I mean, he was the president of the United States. She was not. It's as simple as that. And she has strong aspirations, as shown by as soon as he wasn't the president of the United States, she ran 2 consecutive times to get there and didn't, which is what I think is her Avayoga. That this was her lifelong ambition. She married Bill Clinton. Well, it was kind of interesting, that whole thing. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But look at Bill Clinton. He's represented by a debilitated Mars. Right? Does that fit? Yeah, what do you think, Shakjoti? You could speak freely, you're not a US citizen.
I think it fits. It's Mars is in Ashleisha as well, so it's bringing out more of like those lower qualities, I think, of Mars being more impulsive, Mars not making the right decision, not making, those sorts of things behind closed doors. I don't know how he was with her, or how he is with her, but I don't know if they get along very well or if they're argumentative or if he's more dominating. And that's probably what I would think.
I mean, clearly, he's weaker than she is. I don't think there's any question, at least from her point of view in her chart. But actually, even if you look at his chart, he doesn't have a very strong Lugna. I mean, there are other reasons why he was president of the United States. So basically, they met in law school, right? They both went to Yale, and he asked her twice to marry him, and she said no twice, because she was already starting her career. She's very successful. But I mean, she didn't totally start her career because she hadn't passed the boards, which are very difficult for the law boards. And what didn't come out until years later, everybody was sort of surprised when she married him and moved to like backwater Arkansas, where he was going to be the governor, but it's nothing like the kind of work she was doing. And it was either in DC or in New York. She was advocacy for children, and she was like on her way, waiting for the results, where she could officially be hired. And it turned out that she actually failed the first time. She never admitted. It came out years later. And she made a calculation that it would be better for her, to go to Arkansas where she could pass the board very, very easily and become, a practicing attorney. She would be a governor's wife, and eventually, support Bill, in his aspirations to be president, and then it would be her turn. That was the calculation. Issue is that she was a she, right? She was asked one time, by the way, and I don't remember if this is an exact quote from her, but you'll get the essence from her. They asked her, wasn't she so fortunate, that she became the wife of the President of the United States? If a man with such high position, and didn't she think how lucky she was that, that was the role she had? And what she answered was, I could have married a gas station attendant and then they would have been president of the United States. Very clearly stating that the reason he was president of the United States is because of her. And she's right, actually. I think that's true. So that was the line. I thought that was wonderful. And this shows that she married basically the gas station attendant and made him president of the United States. Now he was better than a gas attendant. He became the governor, et cetera, et cetera. But she's the one who built the money. She's the one who, that during the governorship, and she was lawyering and doing property stuff and all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah. And in fact, when he ran, he told the country they were getting a twofer. It's not like he put her in her place. In fact, he did everything he could to elevate her. When his first term, he ran on healthcare. He really wanted to fix healthcare. And she was very interested in that and very interested in families and children and all that. And he put her in charge of which she came up with a brilliant healthcare plan. But the Congress, being very patriarchal, wouldn't have her. And the country started losing faith also because they felt that she was a aggressive woman. She wasn't just aggressive, she was competent. And she wound up with very low ratings until she forgave her husband in the big scandal. That was her highest ratings, when she stood by her man. And that's what she was facing. And that's her Abhiyoga. She was never appreciated as the woman that she still is. And the loss of her as president in the first Trump run for presidency changed the history of the United States, because he got in instead of her. It would have been very, very, very different. She would have had a very difficult time, though, because people were still arrayed against her. But of course, she lost to Obama. She didn't lose the president, she lost the nomination. So when I meant she ran twice, she ran for president against Obama, and she ran in primaries and ran against Trump the next time around. Lost both times. Abhiyoga. She wasn't in her Venus Dasha. If she was in her Venus Dasha, she might have won. She was in her sun, and her sun is debilitated. It's very interesting. If you were a Jyotishi, you would have told her, either you win in this time frame, skip the next time frame. But actually, I think she was in her Mundasha when she ran. But I think there were other things going on at the time. I'm trying to remember exactly. Anyhow, that's her situation. Very tragic in many ways. She even she always called herself Hillary Rodham Clinton. And then when she started getting pushback, and Bill Clinton had to take her out of the whole healthcare thing, remove her from that whole project. She started calling herself Hillary Clinton. She dropped Rodham Clinton, her own individual ahankara, of who she always was, thinking maybe people would like her better. And then she went by Mrs. Clinton, which showed that she just had to hide who she was, Mrs. Clinton. Sad story. Okay, let's move over to Eleanor Roosevelt. So here, I'm going to have to intervene in terms of utilization, because you won't have everything on board to know that she is a utilizer. You need another class of mine. It's called Vichara Tidbits. I don't think anyone here took the tidbit class, is that right? Yeah, okay. So there's actually more than meets the eye that gives Eleanor utilization. We can at least say that although Mars has gone to a negative house, neither Mars or the Lagna is afflicted. Right? So it might not be very good to be in a trick house, but it isn't afflicted. And that makes a difference. There's another interesting pattern in Eleanor's chart. I wonder if anyone would like to comment on it. Overall pattern here. Anybody? Suhas.
Yeah, 2 Shubhagrahas in the 10th house.
Pardon me?
2 Shubhagrahas in the 10th house.
Yes, so she has lovely 2 Shubha. Yeah, unfortunately not making Amala Yogas because of the drishti from Saturn, but it's a very nice 10th house, and that helps, right, for her visibility, etc. And she was considered like that, very benign, very positive force and reputation. People loved Eleanor Roosevelt. But I'm looking at a bigger pattern, but you're on the right track. Yeah, Shatjoti?
I'm going to say that most of the grahas are approaching the mid-horizon, like they're...
Yeah. Another way of saying that is all of the grahas visible. And we always have to go with visible. When we're looking at astronomical patterns, I'm teaching a class on astronomical patterns, Nabasa yogas, and all of those yogas are only made with the saptagrahas because it's visible. So here, all of the saptagrahas are above the horizon, and they're well above the horizon. What do I mean by well above the horizon? It means nothing is in the 1st or the 7th, where something would be setting or something would be rising, and you'd have to see whether they were visible or not visible. You guys following what I'm saying? Here, there's just no question. They're all visible above the horizon powerfully, okay? So that's a big deal for her. And she was very visible as a first lady and also beloved as a first lady. Very different from Hillary. Yeah, interesting. No affliction to the Lagna or the Lagna Lord versus an Avayoga, essentially. So now, what is the alignment with her husband? That was the assignment, right? So, Anna, what's the alignment?
It's a 311.
It's a 311. How'd that work out?
Well, they knew each other since they were little, so they already had this sort of close bond. They were distant cousins even.
Yeah, they're cousins. Exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So they kind of grew up together, seeing each other a lot, and were already close before they had a romantic relationship.
Okay.
And then it went back to being friends after drama.
Yes. So what was the drama, Oana?
Oh, I didn't look.
Okay. Sunita?
It was the affair.
Yeah, I think it was a little more than an affair, actually. I mean, he really was he loved this other woman. And it was supposed to be over, and then it wasn't over. But she recovered quite well from it, after all. And what aura did their relationship take on that persisted, throughout his life? Because this happened somewhat early. Suhas?
He was his caretaker, right, after he got polio. So
yeah, she became a caretaker advocate because the mother, wanted him to just retire from politics, and because he was ill. And she would have nothing of that. She didn't get along that well with her mother-in-law. And so, she wanted to help him. But what was the flavor of their relationship? Anna kind of went there, but maybe we could be a little more specific. Yeah, Sunita?
I think they became more friends and not so much romantic relationship.
Yeah,
more
definitely.
partners.
No romantic relationship. As soon as she knew that was continuing, she was done. However, quite good friends. I mean, supportive. So she was very supportive of him, and he was very supportive of her and her work. And she was a very active First Lady, and of course he predeceased her. And she was beloved as a First Lady, did a lot of work, and very visible work, and very lauded by it. But also, it was just a platonic relationship. It was a brother-sister relationship. That's basically where I'm going with this. And interestingly, it came out, I don't know exactly when it came out, I don't think it came out in her lifetime, but she might not have been that brokenhearted about this because there were very specific and fairly literal correspondence between her and her best friend, another woman, that were clearly romantic. So she herself most likely was bisexual at a time when you didn't do that, especially not as First Lady, et cetera, but kept it well hidden, but had tremendous support in that relationship. So that also probably flavored things where she just didn't mind anymore. He went his way and she went her way, and she supported him. She loved him and agreed on his values and what he wanted for the country. So they were definitely supporters. That makes sense? And the 311 can start out romantic, and this happens a lot, I think, in marriages. It starts off maybe hot and heavy and romantic, and then they become basically each other's best friends, as the years go on. So it isn't a bad thing, 311. It just doesn't have that kind of fascination, idea. And the helper thing is much more pronounced in the 5-9. Any questions on that? Are we okay with that? Yes, Sunita?
Yeah, Penny, I get the 311 is more like siblings, the platonic relationship, supportive elements. But with the 410 in Hillary and Bill Clinton, they're not synergistic, but
No, they're not.
They're not. So, and still Hillary stood by Bill, right? Despite all of the drama.
Why did she stand by Bill?
For her own.
For her own, exactly.
Needs.
And she was
Okay.
right. By standing by Bill, her approval rating shot up. Absolutely shot up. All of a sudden, she was, more likable. In fact, I always showed a clip with Hillary Clinton, Joji, you might remember this clip, where she was debating with Obama in New Hampshire. I think the debate was in New Hampshire. And the anchor who asked the questions in the debate said, you have everything, to be president of the United States. But when it comes to likability. The people don't like you. They like Obama much better. He's much more likable. He said, what do you have to say to that? And she said, well, it kind of hurts my feelings. And she said it with a, kind of with a smile. And she said, but he's likable. I understand. I can see why people like him very much. He's likable. And then Obama was asked, do you find Hillary likable? And he said, she's likable enough. It's a real burn on her. So she had this problem. So when she stood by her husband, we don't know what went on behind closed doors. We don't even know if they had a relationship anymore, after the various women, after this, and certainly after the scandal, I don't know. But she calculated, that if she divorced him, that would totally end her career. That's my thought about it. Also would not have been good for the country. She did have that, all in mind. And it was absolutely the correct calculation. And I do believe that he maybe was fonder of her than she was of him. The speech he gave at the convention where she was nominated for president. Bill Clinton was an incredible speaker. He has his quesadilla yoga across 2-8 axis. Incredible speaker. It was probably the most beautiful speech I've heard him say. And it was clearly of someone who held her in very high regard and loved her. But from her side, yeah, I'm sure it was okay. But I'm sure she just was furious at him for degrading the presidency in that way. She's absolutely furious. Any other woman would have just divorced him. Okay, good. It's a good question, Sunita, and I'm glad you raised that. And that is the difference between 311 is the threshold. And beyond that, we get the non-synergistic elements, and they have their bite. So let's go there, shall we? We now need to look at the 212. So we're going to go a little bit lickety-split, but I think there's a clarity to them that you'll be okay. So the 212 are going to be those same non-synergistic elements that we saw in 410, same ones. But what we've added is we've added now a Dusthana theme, because none of the others involved a Dusthana. And here we get 212. One is a Dusthana, one is not. On top of non-synergistic elements. So we're going to be in the presence of more difficult alignments here as a result. This kind of boils down to, I don't think we have to repeat what they are. I think we know that. It boils down to, that's the 6-8, sorry. It boils down to certain ways that these couples will relate to each other. And these will be the ways, these will be the issues in their relationship. Second bhava is money, resources, artha. 12th bhava is loss. So there may be problems in spending or resources or that kind of thing in that 212 relationship. Second bhava, family. 12th bhava, seclusion. So there may be problem there. One is more family oriented. The other wants to go off to, a retreat somewhere without anybody else, kind of thing. They need their space, kind of thing. Second bhava, speech. 12th bhava, silence, we could say, part of that seclusion. Second bhava, food. 12th bhava, perhaps fasting or a difference in their food. So the 12th bhava is a source of expense. We could even say of disappointment. It's also fall from high position, this kind of thing. So the interaction of this disappointment can accrue to the 12th when the relationships might fail, whoever it happens to be with. Doesn't have to be a complete killer as long as the couple understands the dynamics, and so we're going to talk about that in just a bit. What would you say or do with a couple like this? So again, one might want more seclusion than the other. One might be less communicative than the other. You know, well, we should talk about this. We have this problem. I don't want to talk about it. Do you ever see that in couples? Have that happened to you, you know, with a parent or with a significant other or with a kid? I don't want to talk about it. That's a big deal. Some people want to talk it out. Some people want to talk it out too soon. You know, they haven't had the time to take that walk around the block. They may just, you know, blast somebody with their speech, you know, which will drive the other one into, they won't talk to them. And then one's a vegan, the other one likes Big Macs. This is a problem. Okay. Dietary stuff can be, yeah, it could be a problem. I have a husband I don't have this relationship with my husband, but he is very strict celiac, full-blown celiac disease. He can't have a crumb of gluten. You know, we have to have separate toasters and separate this and separate that. And luckily now, thank God, the industry has come along, and you can't even tell some of the cake that they make is gluten-free or some of the, but at the beginning, you know, it was dismal. The kind of, he loved bread. He made French baguettes. He was incredible. It was really a difficult situation. Now, we didn't have a 212, but for a couple that may have, there might not have been a lot of support, you know, for that. It might have been very difficult. And then again, communication, exactly. So here you go. But Hart added another very interesting spin to this that I wanted to mention. I love the way he described it. He said that the 212 relationship means one's in front of the other, right? That's what 212 is. One is in front and the 12 is 12 from. So something is behind something else. He said, what if you're walking down the street at night in a neighborhood that you're not so sure about, and you hear footsteps behind you, especially if you're a woman, but anyone. It's kind of uncomfortable, and you can't see who's behind you. And you sure don't want to turn around and look, you know, but you know there's someone behind you. And so there's something about that presents I'm not sure of this. And Hart phrases it, and he's also quick to say, this will not happen 100% of the time, but explore it. And the exploration is that the one who is behind disappoints the one who's ahead. So the one who's 12th from is a source of disappointment. The graha in the second position feels let down or unsupported by the graha in the 12th position. Some lack of support in some way, shape, or form. But he's very clear also that sometimes the roles reverse. So don't get too attached to that one direction. The dynamic can shift. So, again, issues around communication, issues around security, issues around nutrition, around travel and distance, around fear of loss, psychologically, fear of loss, expenses, all those things. So the native that we're going to actually be doing for homework, I'm going to tell you who this is, and we're going to identify the players. And we're also going to be using this same chart for our big wrap-up. There's going to be a table I'm going to give you this week. In fact, we're going to look at it, and I'll get there when I get there at the end of the class today. But our native is Charlie Sheen. So some of you know who Charlie Sheen is. Some of you may not know who Charlie Sheen is. He's an actor. He very successful on television, etc. His father is a powerhouse. Look at the father. Yeah, big powerhouse. And in fact, if it wasn't for his father, Martin Sheen, Charlie may have been somewhat washed up. But for now, let's just check out his significant other. So let's look in this chart and see if we see the Vasana for that. So his Lagna Lord is obviously Venus. Are we already a little concerned? Sunita, what do you see about Venus here? Condition-wise.
It's kind of ordinary.
I think it's worse than ordinary. Right? Anyone else? Sorry, Sunita. I thought you were shaking your head, so I thought you were onto it. So no problem. Being on the spot's difficult. You know, I don't intend to put people on the spot. And also, you know, we did our mantra. We all support each other. Srijan?
Debilitated.
Yeah, it's debilitated. This is in Virgo. Venus in Virgo. Yeah. So the Lagna Lord's debilitated. What do you notice about the Lagna? I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so you can raise your hands. Yes, Shatyoti?
Yeah. It's hammered with all the malefics.
Yeah, the Lagna is malefics only on that Lagna. Everybody see that? But even more, Shatyoti, you're absolutely right. But there's something that I taught you, you guys, probably all of you, but maybe not, that operates in this particular chart. The Lagna is definitely afflicted, but there's something else going on with that Lagna, the afflictor, that's important to notice. So, anybody? Accurate what Shatyoti said. Yeah, Suhas?
Yeah, so the Lagna is aspected by Mars, and the Lagna, it's 212 from Venus, right? In this case.
Well, I'm not going there yet. I want to know about the Lagna itself. Okay.
Is it in a hot spot? No, it's in 6.
No, the Lagna itself. Just look at the Lagna.
Just the Lagna. Just the Lagna. Okay.
Anybody? Shatyoti?
There's no stabilization.
There's no stabilization. I'm going for your statement was totally right. Lagna is afflicted without any stabilization, but there's very important something about that affliction. Kumar?
Rahu is debilitated?
Rahu is debilitated. Do you remember I said to you, if you see the Lord of a bhava debilitated, while there's a debilitated graha in the bhava, that's particularly troublesome. Bill Clinton had this. He had his 9th Lord Venus debilitated in his Virgo Lagna. And he had a debilitated Rahu in his 9th bhava. And I said, watch out for something like that. And you have the same pattern here, which means that even though Venus is in a positive house, there's something very off about this. And both Venus and Rahu, what do they have in common? In the vicharas you've done so far. Maybe someone besides, Srijan?
Kama.
Kama, exactly. So this is one of the reasons why the 1-7, or the 7-7, we should say, is quite important here. Okay, so we've established the fact that the 7th Lord's debilitated. There's a debilitated Rahu in the Lagna. And now, what's going on with the 7th Lord? So now, Suhas, you can come back and repeat what you said.
Yeah, so the 7th Lord Mars is in the 6th house, and it's 212 from the ascendant.
And it's what?
212 from the ascendant Lord.
Yeah, so let's be a little more precise about it. So let's go with Mars first of all. It's in the 6th bhava. What else do we want to say about Mars, the 7th Lord? Somebody else.
So it's in Rahu's nakshatra.
Somebody else means somebody else. You and Yuri can form a little club, but Yuri's been so good.
Like Suha said, it's in the hot spot.
It's in a hot spot. Yes, it's in a spot. It's in a hot spot. It's in the seventh bhava it's Lord of the seventh in a hot spot. So now we have, there are 212. Mars, the seventh lord, is in a hot spot. Venus is debilitated and holds a debilitated Rahu in its other Rashi. So Shatyoji might be very alert on what's going on in the Venus Rashis, which degraded even more. So it is a real problem. Who is getting disappointed here? Potentially. So I said it won't happen all the time, but potentially. Who is getting disappointed here? Kumar.
So it will be seventh lord, which is Mars. So spouse is getting disappointed.
By him, exactly. Everybody got that? So there's a likelihood of that. I'm telling you, it's not 100%, but this chart sets up very nicely for this. Because look at the affliction on the seventh bhava itself also. So what yoga do we have here, guys? Well, I can't say that. It's broken because of Jupiter's drishti. But the seventh bhava itself is hammered. Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn aspecting. You all see that? So your job is going to be working with his bio. And I'll give you his information towards the end, because you're going to be working with it even more than you think when we get there. So, where are you, Charlie? I should have your data right here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, good. I'll give you that after. Now we're going to move to the last one, the 6-8. Okay? Also the same thing, only here, not just one Dustana theme, but 2, 6-8. No synergy in the elements and double Dustana themes. So this is going to be more full out, more intense relationship to 6-8. And yet, we always have to pay attention to the chart itself. So I'm going to just show you a marked up abstract situation to explain that. But first, let's look at the themes that may get invoked by 6-8. Well, it's going to be 6th bhava, 8th bhava themes. There's going to be issues around enemies. There's going to be issues around debt. There's going to be issues around scandals. And there's going to be possibly ill health. So here I want to point out that the couple themselves may not fight with each other. They may be fine, but they're beset with the burden of one of them, or the other of them having ill health, which puts a lot of strain on a relationship. Anybody who's been in that position, who has, a spouse who has a serious chronic disease, for example, it's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of duress, and it can involve a lot of expenditure, if you aren't prepared, right? So it isn't necessarily that they're enemies in that way, but it also could be that they are. They could be involved in a lawsuit, for something or other, again, which puts strain on things. But it could also be scandals and manipulation and arguing and intrigue and all that kind of stuff. All that could be there as well. So inimical patterns are here. Okay, so again, the 6-8 is has that torque to it. So there's kind of a suffering idea to it. All of those ideas. So let's look at, I'm going to contrast two mocked up charts. Just a little skeleton thing. So here's a situation where there's 6-8 with two major important relationships. Venus and Saturn are 6-8. Saturn is the fifth lord, Venus is the Lugna lord. So there's a 6-8 with children. But Saturn is also the fourth lord, and Venus is the Lugna lord. So there's a 6-8 with parent, mother particularly. You see that? Now here's something that's very, very important in maturing your idea about this. If the grahas are in positive bhavas, both of these are, if they are strong, Saturn is strong. Venus has a strength that we haven't all considered yet. But I'll give a little bonbon on it. It's the Rashi right before its exaltation Rashi. And that gives it a certain strength. It has a name in Sanskrit, etc., etc. So you might not think this Venus has strength, but it does have this particular quality that's very important. So in both the relationships, both of the grahas have some strength. And in fact, Saturn gives Venus a Parvata-like yoga because Saturn is retrograde in this particular chart. And if Saturn is unafflicted, so I know a chart like that, that sets up like this, where the Saturn is on top of all that, it's also unafflicted. So it would be very helpful in a dynamic like this. And the other piece is that they are friends. Venus and Saturn are friends. All these things are going to show up in this wrap-up that we're going to do. I'm going to be giving you a chart with or a table, how to fill in a table as you look at charts to get all these details that I just said. Yeah. So now, if we were to go with which one was the more problematic relationship, I would opt for the child, because in the child relationship, Saturn is going 6 away from its own house. So that would also signal an issue. It's going 6 away from its own house. So now, let's just think about, let's go with the mother first, maybe. What might be going on here? Well, they may just not align. The mother's stronger in this particular case, agreed? The mother's the one with the first year strength. Might overpower the native in some way, shape, or form. But because of the positive bhavas and the strength, this particular vasana in this particular case may still be worked on. So if you were the Jyotishi, you might say, you might consider, when and we're going to assume that the person coming to see us is past the point where they're living at home. But what if you had, the child's chart and you were talking to the mother? Then you might talk to the mother about, you may be overpowering this child. You may be structuring them too much. This is Saturn, right? Giving them too rigid a routine. Or yeah, Shachoti?
I'm sorry, Penny, I just want to clarify something. So you said, in your opinion, child would be more problematic because Saturn is going 6 away. Wouldn't we be looking for the child as Venus and the mother is Saturn?
So the mother is Saturn and the child is Venus. Yes, that's just what I'm saying. It's a more problematic vasana here. That there's going to be a problem with, the person's going to have a problem with their mother who's overbearing.
So the mother, okay, so the mother will be the more problematic in the relation. Sorry, I guess
if we're looking at child and if we're looking at Venus,
yeah,
and we're doing the vasana with the mother, then the mother's going to be overbearing.
Okay.
If we're looking at the relationship of the native with their child, okay, that's going to be more difficult than the native's relationship with their mother. because Saturn is going 6 away from the 5th house of child, 7 away from the house of mother. So the two relationships, the mother's difficult, but the native's difficulty with the child is even more so because the child perceives this enemy relationship, the 6 away.
So sorry, so just again to be crystal clear, we're looking at this as the native, their relationship with their mom, but then you're also mentioning the native's relationship with their child.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That's what I'm mentioning, that in this particular chart, there's two vital relationships that are in this 6-8. So there's fireworks with the mother and there's fireworks with the child. Okay? And this is water and air, lots of bubbles. It would be, it would be worse if it was fire and water where they extinguish each other. So that's the other thing we need to understand here, that of the 4 non-synergistic, it's the slightly softer ones. I'm not saying it's soft, but it's the slightly softer one than the air and earth and fire and water, which are the worst ones. If you remember, if you go back and look at when we first did all the elemental combinations, you guys remember that? Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying is, if I were talking to this person as the mother of the child, if I was doing that 6-8, I would say you're overstructuring your child. There's too much control. And then I could do it the other way, saying you feel controlled by your mother. You might feel controlled by your mother as well. But that's a little more amenable than the relationship with the child. They're both amenable. And the reason they're amenable is they're in positive houses, they're strong, and they're friends. Okay? So all of that means they could work with. So, but for me, control is a big issue because this is a very, very strong Saturn. And whether it's a blatant control or psychological control, you could get, you don't call me often enough, says the mother. It's the mother now, talking about the mother one. You don't call my friends, my friends, their kids, they call their mother all the time. You don't call me, this kind of thing. So that's a more psychological control, right? Or the parent is, if it's now the mother, the native's mother might be fixing them all the time, finding all these ways to fix them and improve them and whatever, which can be demeaning to them. Why don't you like me just the way I am? And then of course the other way around. But these are workable because of the condition and because of all the other little doodads that I'm mentioning. So now let's look at another chart. Now we're looking at Mars is the Lugna Lord and the Sun is the 5th Lord. Well, this is a horse of a different color entirely. This is way less functional. Number 1, the Sun, the 5th Lord, has gone to a hot spot. Everybody see that? And do you notice Saturn is afflicting both the 5th Lord and the 5th Baba? And there's a planetary war in the 5th house. I mean, I made this as bad as I could, right? I might have been able to make it worse, but... So this would be much more Drud Karma for the 6-8 relationship. Much more difficult. This relationship, the kid may just take off. That's it. Segregated from, I don't want to see anybody. I'm done. I'm out of here. Or the parent may not want to have anything to do with the kid. Suhas?
Yeah, so Saturn also aspects Sun in the 12th.
Pardon me?
Saturn also aspects 12th house, Sun.
I already said that Saturn aspects the 5th Lord and, yeah.
Okay, and then also you have the fire water you were talking about. So,
Yes, we have the fire water and we have a hot spot. The sun is in a hot spot on top of it all. This is, Kaushala is a total disaster here. The skill set, for this arrangement is a real problem. As opposed to the skill set for this Vasana is better. Okay? All right, so now, yes, Srijan?
You were saying something about how Jyotish will be counseling this individual about not being so structuring and all, right? Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Well, I mean, we could go on and on about, all the ways that we could describe Saturn as the one that's imposing on Venus. So there may be strict rules, there may be pressure to succeed, pressure to do a career where there's security, just kind of go through the Saturn Katakattvas, in what way that may get imposed on the child or the mother may impose on the person. So I had a situation somewhat like this where the parent was concerned about a relationship that the child was getting into, and basically talk the child out of that relationship because the person they were having a relationship with was more successful, better looking, this kind of thing. And so you may have to worry about this person if you wind up with that person. They may not stay true to you because, they're superior to you in all these ways. So making the child feel, less than. So there's many ways that it's going to depend, Srijan. I'm doing a little in abstract. It's going to depend on the situation in the chart, but there's going to be a control issue, a manipulative issue, a security issue, make sure you do things, maybe a lot of pressure on education, to establish a security, all kinds of different possible ways.
Okay, just to clarify myself, I think Venus, which represents the individual here, has an issue with the mother and the child. So in both cases, mother might be structuring the individual. Child might also create more tension to the individual by his own ways of getting into something that the mother doesn't like.
Yeah, so when you're working with the child one, the issue might be that the child is unhappy with the mother who is imposing order and structure, just as the native themselves was unhappy with their mother.
Yeah.
So this is like a inherited vasana here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So and then if this happens with a couple, for example, if we get a 6-8 with a couple, providing again it's just not a total disaster, very often what I'll talk about is the duplex marriage. I'll recommend that. Duplex literally where they each have their own apartment in a duplex, or there's a man cave, or something like that, or a woman cave, where when your spouse goes to that particular room and closes the door, it means you don't go in. They need their space. In other words, they need their space. So I do that a lot with that kind of relationship in a marriage. Give them their space. You don't have to do everything together. The pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak and the cypress don't grow in each other's shadow. It's a beautiful piece from Khalil Gibran on marriage. Remember, stand together, but not too close together, because the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. That's what I quote to people with a 6-8, that they need their space. They need to still maintain their individuality. More so than a 1-1 that want to do everything together, right? Or the 5-9, I want to teach you this. Okay, good, and I'm going to teach you that. And let's go inspire the world together. Yeah? You see? They have their different, or the 7-7, which is opposite of let's do this because you know I love dancing. Well, yeah, okay, and maybe you'll like it too. It's exciting. It's romantic. You know, yeah. The 7-7 could also have the man cave, the woman cave as well. You know, if the differences get too intense. So they all have their own flavors. Kumar?
Um, so, so we are looking at husband's chart and wife's chart. If
Not
husband,
here. Here we were looking at mother and child, and also child and mother. We're looking at both ways. Because this person, the Lagna Lord, happens to have a 6-8 with both their mother and their child.
no, my question was more generic, like if you are looking at husband's chart separately and wife's chart separately.
Oh, okay, that's a different story. And that moves into compatibility. And in fact, that's exactly what we do when we join the charts. We look for their individual tendency. And if that's repeated when you do the synergy between the charts, then it becomes even more problematic. So if the wife has a 6-8 in her chart, and then when you put together something that's called the pillars of compatibility, there's four things that we measure. And there's a 6-8 and a significant one of those. You know, then there's like the Venus pillar. Obviously for compatibility, Venus is a big deal. Then, you know, that's a red flag that has to get worked out in that compatibility. They have to be aware of it. Point about vasanas is you make them aware of it. And the vasanas can be worked on. And one of the things we're working towards in this particular Sangha, and I'm emphasizing that even with the Basics 2 students this time, is that Heart's been especially active these days in working through dealing with stressed situations, stress grahas, and we could put stressed alignments in that same category, and offering very practical ways of working with these grahas, which we will be bringing into our teachings, you know, quite a bit as we start to look at real charts. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Good. And Shatjoti?
From what I'm seeing, that some of the harder relationships like the 6-8, the 2-12, they're more transformational if you bring enough awareness around them. Whereas the other ones can sometimes be more transactional, that there's not as much growth, but you're just on the same page.
That's beautiful. And it is true that we grow through some of our difficulties, right? And we all have difficulties. 50% punya karma, 50% papa karma. It's going to show up somewhere. And some people are like on automatic pilot in their relationships, especially the 1-1s. It could be dull, right? It could be a big yawn. And yeah, you would rather have the 7-7 than the 6-8, right? But both of them are dynamic in their own way. Okay. Oh, one other thing I didn't say about this is despite the misalignment, Venus's strength is created by the mother, right? If we're looking at the mother as the one that helps the Parvata Yoga, and then the other way around, also the child inadvertently may not be aware that they are stronger because of a friendship relationship, the positive bhavas, etc. But here, very directly, the mother is Saturn. Yeah, I mean the native's mother. Here, the native is giving strength to the child that the child doesn't really realize they may be having. No, actually, the other way around. Sorry, forgot that. It's the mother that's giving strength to the native in this particular chart. The child is Saturn. The child may be the one who, through hard lessons with that child, benefits the mother, I guess we could say, because clearly the child is stronger in this particular way. Okay. Reorient the mother's life, perhaps. Okay. I was going to show you, 6-8, but I think when we do this last homework, and we really should move along. So the whole art of alignment also has another interesting spin to it that I'll go to as soon as I show you these tables. Oh, this is not the one I wanted. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to stop this share and pull up another share, which is this. I wanted to give you a different, I'm sending you this right after class today. Whoops, it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to share the table. Where'd the table go? I think I deleted it from the desktop, which is a very stupid thing to do, but you know. Yeah, I'll have to bring it up again. Here we go. Okay, maybe I can be less clunky this time. Good. Can you all see this table? Okay. I'm hoping you're going to like this table because it, you still see it, right? Okay, I thought I pushed the wrong button here. I'm trying to clear my screen. Sometimes I hit the wrong button. This is a very nice way of tabulating. And when I did compatibility, actually when art of alignment and also compatibility, we do this for the two people, just because we need to know their individual vasanas. This is why art of alignment is the prerequisite to compatibility, along with the marriage pro forma, which we're going to do in January. I'm already scheduling that. So there's certain things we want to know. We want to know what's going on with the Lagna Lord, utilization as usual. You know, we might even put in other whatever, if there's some interesting nakshatra, whatever it is that you do and you want to make notes of. And then the Lagna itself. And then we want to look at relation means the Vasana. Is there a 311? Is it a 77? Is it a 59? Okay, that's what this column is for. And then we want to know if the third Lord and the first Lord are friends. Maybe one of them is friend and the other is neutral, whatever. Then we definitely want to know the strength. This is a little more optional. And then we want to know where they are. Are they in positive houses, negative houses, etc.? Okay? So that's what this table is. This table is confluence for this. So we also want to see the Lagna Lord's relationship to the Kataka sun, which will of course relate to what's going on with the Lord of the first and the Lord of the ninth. We want to know the Kataka moon's relationship to the Lagnesha, and that will we'll see if there's confluence with what the Lord of the fourth and the Lord of the first relationship is like, and so on. Mars for siblings, if you're looking at third bhava, Jupiter for children, if you're looking at fifth bhava, and we're using Venus for man or woman for the seventh bhava. This is less important than this. So we're looking for more confluence for these vasanas. If both the sun and the ninth bhava have positive combinations, 311s, 59s, right? 77, 11, then good. If they both have 6 8s, 4 10s, 2 12s, then it's more problematic. Got it? Now, what if one goes one way and the other goes the other way? We favor the Bhavesha. That's more specific. Does that mean we take something away from it? Maybe. We have to use our judgment. You know, if this is a 6-8, maybe, and this one is a 311, you know, then maybe it declines a little bit. Now, we also use this table for establishing a yoga for alignment. So we can have a yoga for alignment. What does that mean? Yeah, I see what I did. I didn't mess this up. I have to put this on play again. Somehow I got it off play. Oh, this should work. Why is it not? Yeah, it doesn't work. You're seeing my whole screen, right? So I have to take this off. Okay. I want to introduce you to something we call a Su-Sambandha Yoga and a Dus-Sambandha Yoga. And that's going to be your homework, looking at these. Okay, so let me just share this properly again. I see the problem here. Oh, I see what was going on. Okay, good. You know, I've learned not to be too clunky with the technology, but clunk happens. So now I should be able to share and it should work out just fine, right? Guys, see this? Okay. So there is a yoga called a Su-Sambandha Yoga. And these are the terms of it. A Su-Sambandha Yoga. What does Su mean? Su means good. Sambandha means relationship. So Su-Sambandha Yoga is a person who has very good relationships to all their relationships, or most of them, predominance. So the native will have an innate ability to skillfully relate to those social relationships whose lords are 3, 5, 9, 11, as counted from the Lagna Lord. And you may say, just a minute, what about 1, 1? What about 7, 7? Well, they are not as harmonious as 5, 9, and 3, 11. Why? Because they're Kendra relationships. And in a Kendra relationship, there's always a power dynamic to them. 7, 7, I think you can relate to very clearly, but even 1, 1, depending on what's going on condition-wise, one may overpower the other. Whereas the 3, 11 and the 5, 9, and coming from another tradition, the Tajika tradition, if any of you have taken any of the Tajika classes, I don't know, have any of you done that? Purushottam's Tajika yet? I don't think you guys qualify for that as yet. You'll find that the 5, 9 are like outright friends, and the 3, 11 are like more like hidden friends, which is what we think, right? In the Art of Alignment, we phrase it more Plutonic or Plutonic friends or supporters. That's the 3, 11 idea, and 5 of 9 is the mentoring and the Dharma and whatever. So this is well known in other astrological traditions, but the Tajika tradition is part of Jyotisha. So especially we're using this yoga if you get the 3, 11, 5, 9s in those columns that I was just talking about. If the grahas are strong and stable, it further enhances the Su-Sambandha pro forma. If they're friends of the Lagna Lord, likewise enhance. And then this also can apply to the Lagna Lord and the Kataka, as I showed you in the table. So if there's 5, 9s with the mother, with the moon, as well as 3, 11, with the Lord of the Fourth, that enhances the Su-Sambandha feeling about it. And then we have the opposite. We have what's called the Dus-Sambandha yogas, when they're inimical relationships between the first bhava and the other key grahas that are representing relationships. So the person will have a poor ability to skillfully relate to those relationships whose lords are 6, 8, or 12 from the Lagna Lord. And if they're weak and afflicted, it further detriments it. If they're enemies of the Lagna Lord, further detriments it. And this applies also to a lesser extent between the Lagna Lord and the Katakas. So our big roundup for this class is I'm going to give you 2 charts to work on and ask you to fill the table for those 2 charts. One of them, in fact, is Charlie Sheen. So here's Charlie Sheen's data. In fact, here's his chart. You can see it again. And his data is September 3rd, 1965, 22:48, New York, New York. And you should get this Lagna, 25 degrees 03. Okay? And then our other chart is Helen Hunt. So we've worked on Helen Hunt's chart extensively, yes. But I'll give you her data again. She might not have it at your fingertips, and I happen to. So she was born, obviously somewhere around noon, right? She was born on June 15th, 1963 at 12:55 p.m. in Culver City, Culver, California. And that is her degree. So fill out those tables and see what conclusions you come to. Any question about the homework? Now for Charlie Sheen especially, well, for both of them, but we've worked on Helen Hunt. So we know how she operates in basics too, right? Everybody here has worked on Helen Hunt. But Charlie Sheen you have not worked on. So look up his bio, both for the Vasana that we saw, the 212, and also for whether he shows Dusambandha, Susambandha, or neither. It's not like you're going to characterize every chart. Those are the extremes. Do you understand that? So they're the ends of the seesaw. A person that's Susambandha is the end of a seesaw from the person who's Dusambandha. They're absolutely opposites in how they function in their primary relationships. Good? Understand? Okay. Any questions? Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurupyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. Okay, bye guys.